I'm Marianna Portela, your storyteller, and this is Goddess, Witch, Woman, a Healing Stories podcast. A woman stands before a mirror, a question on her lips, a reflection that answers back. Who is the fairest of them all? The mirror does not lie, however cruel the answer may be. Or does it? Welcome to another episode of Goddess, Witch, Woman. I've been away, but I am back with one of the most iconic witches in history. So, who is the fairest one of all? Somewhere between in this space between the question and the answer, I think there's something ancient that we can look at that begins to stir. There's jealousy, there's grief, there's hunger, there is love. There is a mother's love that curdles into rivalry. There is the daughter's beauty that awakens loss. There is a mirror that whispers things no woman wants to hear. We think we know this story. We have seen her, the red lips, the black hair, the poisoned apple. But the real spell lives between the lines in the symbols of this story. This is the tale of Snow White, but beneath the glass surface lies another story, one about aging, envy, and the wounds that can pass from mother to daughter like heavy heirlooms. Yet, it is also the tale of one of our most beloved witches, the evil queen, the jeweled villainess who steals every scene. There is something very magnetic about her. Don't you think? So her image, especially the Disney version. She has the big mirror on the wall. Her cloak is sweeping the floor. So she has become one of the most recognizable witches in fairy tale history. Snow White is one of the most reproduced stories on Earth, and it's been told again and again and again for centuries. Why, we might ask, this witch still lingers in our collective imagination? Why do we recognize her and remember her as vividly as we do the girl she seeks to destroy? Perhaps it's because she stands at the heart of an ancient anxiety, the terror of the woman who refuses to fade quietly away. That's very scary. We fear her, but we also kind of want her power. This figure of the stepmother, after all, is everywhere in old stories. She is always the one who sends the child away or tries to kill them. She's the one who locks the door, lights the fire. We know her from Cinderella to Hansel and Gretel, or there are even more violent tales, like the Brothers Grimm's The Juniper Tree, where the stepmother embodies this threshold moment when the home turns very hostile and the heroine or hero must walk alone into the woods. However, in the original Grimm fairy tale and other folk tales, it is the biological mother and not the stepmother who envies her child's beauty. Only later did the Brothers Grimm begin cleaning these tales of their original voice and their original violence, and they invented a stepmother. I think so as the sanctity of motherhood wouldn't become tainted somehow. But in truth, this story is about the same woman in different points of her life. The mother who once was, and the daughter who is becoming. I think Freud would have said this is feminine competition. Ugh,
Jung would have called it the shadow, and many women raising teenage daughters will call it a Thursday. Snow White is the tale of adolescence meeting menopause, of spring budding against winter. It is the young woman awakening to her power and the older woman terrified of what that awakening can become, what it means. And both are bleeding in their own ways. One is bleeding for the first time and the other is bleeding for the last time. So there's a lot to unpack here. The forest where the queen sent Snow White into. The forest doesn't mean just danger, it's also always initiation. Most of what I'm talking about here will come from Maria Tatar's work. She is one of the most savvy writers about fairy tales right now, modern authors. And what she calls it, this going into the forest, she calls it initiation by exile. And adolescence often begins with banishment. The child is forced out of their home and into the wild. It's a new moment in someone's life, right? It feels like banishment for sure, for most people. So the forest is this landscape of puberty. It's very confusing. You have fear, you have curiosity, you have blood. Everything is blooming together and mixing. But the queen, on the other hand, she is crossing her own threshold. We can look at her and we can connect her as a woman going through menopause. And menopause, if it's not faced as an initiation, can be seen as a descent, as a descent into invisibility. So her jealousy here is not just malice or evil, but there's also some type of mourning, a grief, an ache of a woman that's watching her vitality pass into another's body. She sees her daughter's spring and she feels her own winter creeping in. And that's really hard. So both mother and daughter are standing on the edge of transformation, and both have mirrors into the past and the future. And if this is a wound for mother and daughter, it will repeat itself. There's this the mother's unfinished story, and there's the daughter who is made to carry it forward if something is not changed here. So the queen's jealousy may be about her unlived girlhood, and then she turns outward. And Snow White may fall into a silence, into a deep sleep. That is her mother's repression being internalized. And we have the apple, of course. So let's talk a little bit about the apple. The apple holds not just this envy, but there is a lot of erotic knowledge into it. We are talking about sexuality. So, of course, the apple has its echoes from the biblical fall from Eden. You have Eve biting the apple and her hunger for knowledge, for understanding, and then the punishment that followed. They are expelled from heaven. So you see that women have always been cursed for wanting to know, to taste, to speak. So here in this story, the apple becomes both the fruit of sin and also an initiation. It is the feminine body awakening to desire and danger at once. And here is the mother initiating the daughter into that erotic knowledge. She is tempted out of girlhood and into womanhood through this red, waxy apple glow. Within this fairy tale, what I believe is it leaves the oldest feminine cycle. The maiden, the mother, and the crone. So Snow White is the maiden. She's innocent, she's curious, she's budding with life. The queen is the mother. But we see her here in her shadow side. She's turned inward. Her nurturing power is distorted into possession and envy. And then we have the hag, which is the disguise the queen wears in the story, which is the crone. So, but here also we have the shadow. So it's wisdom of the crone, but it's twisted into vengeance. It's so interesting to me that the final persona that the queen chooses is the thing that she fears the most, which is becoming an old woman. It's the moment she stops asking the mirror and starts becoming the thing she fears the most. But the transformation into the hag is not just a disguise, it's also initiation. So when the queen takes on her crone aspect, she crosses into the liminal realm of the witch. Her beauty is shad like a skin, and in its place, there's something older, rawer, more dangerous. We have in many Slavic tales the crone, not as evil, but the keeper of thresholds. Hello, Baba Yaga. Go and listen to her episode. And it's the crone who tests the young people and demands courage as payment for wisdom. So the evil queen becomes her own initiation. She crafts this mask, and I love the Disney version of this. It's so powerful and interesting. And then she kind of reveals her true form. So the hag is both a punishment and liberation. So we have the three faces of the same woman, maiden, mother, crone, and these are the seasons of nature, of time, of the female psyche. And we also have three other things, which are Snow White's colors: skin white as snow, lips red as blood, hair as black as ebony. And these are not just, decoration for the story, some adjectives. These are a palette for the life cycle: innocence, passion, death. White for the beginning, red for desire, black for descent. So these colors, they are already like a hint in the beginning of the story, and they belong to the same rhythm that turns the earth and turns our bodies as well. The queen, she's not our enemy. She is our future. And she is a warning of what we can become if we cannot forgive time, if we cannot make peace with the cycle of life, death, life that defines womanhood, being human, right? The opposite of being owed is being dead. So I think we have to make peace with that. Otherwise, we can become this archetype of the evil queen that turns into the hag. My beloved teacher, Clarissa Pinkola Estés, in her book, Women Who Run with the Wolves, says that when a woman loses touch with her instinctual nature, her nurturing, her capacity to nurture, turns predatory. So the queen's hunger is not just about vanity. It's her denial of her own wildness. So a woman who forgets her seasons will try to steal another woman's spring. So the queen commands in the story, "Bring me her heart and her liver," she says to the huntsman. It is a very gruesome image. And yet we've seen the witch who eats children before. Hello, Hansel and Gretel. Go listen to that episode. So here she is, the devouring mother. She is desperate to consume what she has created. Yet the huntsman deceives her, and he offers her a boar's organs instead. and she eats them thinking it's Snow White. She eats her own bestiality, her own animal primal force, instead of eating what she thinks is purity and creation. I think Jung would call this sublimation with seasoning. But Dr. Estes would say that this hunger, it's not for flesh. It is the hunger for vitality, for the life force that she once had as a maiden, as a young girl. Looking at this in an analysis or psychoanalysis, Grandpa Freud would see this as erotic possession. But what he wouldn't understand for a woman is that this is not hunger, this is social hunger. This is a woman starving for agency, for a place, a dignified place to age without disappearing from society. She doesn't want to devour her daughter. She wants to taste her own life again. So the mirror becomes a type of demented oracle, because it's the voice of the culture that she is serving, a patriarchal culture. It is an externalized force. It is the patriarchy whispering through the glass. Naomi Wolf wrote about this on the Beauty Myth, her book. It's a spell that keeps women competing for visibility instead of competing for power. It's a mixture of things. Susan Sontag wrote as well on her book, Double Standard of Aging. She said it is a law that allows men to grow wise and women only grow old and disappear. So the mirror never praises her for anything else, for her wisdom. It only praises her for her beauty, her fairness. And when it stops the praise, she unravels. So the mirrors, we can look at it like a man who is in another room. He is unseen. He is unquestioned. It is a smooth, dark voice that tells her, you are fading. You're no longer the most beautiful one. And here we enter Freud's territory again. We can talk about the mirror as the father's gaze, the absent king's voice, because the king is not there anymore. In some stories he's dead, in some stories he simply is not mentioned anymore. His presence is invisible, but his authority is still absolute. And the queen and Snow White live in this world shaped by him. They are competing for attention, and it is an attention that never fully comes. And I think Freud would have loved this, triangle. And he would blame the mother anyway. Everything is about the mother's fault. But, the king is absent, but it's still her fault. The mirror is not like a neutral witness. It is the patriarchal gaze itself. And when women internalize this, they begin to see one another, not as sisters, not as kin, not as loving partners, but as competition. Under the patriarchy, women learn to perform their beauty as a tool of survival. And the queen performs this until the performance consumes her. And Freud would say this is the penis envy. It's social capital envy. No amount of eyeliner or moisturizer can fix that. We don't have social capital as women. So that's where I think he got it wrong. Nobody wants a male appendage. We just want, to be free and live in the world as we are. So the queen tries to kill Snow White 3 different times in the old tales. As I've said before, 3 is an important number in fairy tales because it signifies that there is an initiatic process happening. And each attempt is like a bit of a ceremony. She has a poisoned comb for her hair. She has laces for her corset. And she has the apple. And those are all a bit of a ritualistic objects for control. And I think I see it as, they're kind of disguised as self-care. There's a book called The Mad Woman in the Attic. It was written by two feminist scholars called Sandra Gilbert and Susan Gubar. And they write that from the point of view of this mad queen, these conventional female arts are killing arts. So the comb grooms, but it also wounds. So it's beauty turned into pain. And the laces tighten the corset. So it's corseting the body into submission. And these are arts, according to these scholars, these are arts that women are taught to perfect. Grooming, pleasing, restraining, until the very tools of something that we are taught, our craft, become our own undoing. Food for thought. And the apple brings another aspect, which is temptation, erotic desire, but also silence. Because in the older versions, there's a piece of apple that gets lodged in the throat when she eats it. So it silences her. In the original tale, there is no kiss from the prince. There's no submission in that sense. The apple is stuck in her throat and she appears like dead. So the queen, she's mad, right? She's in madness. And they compare, in this book, they compared her as the mad woman's fury. It's like this voice that has been told too long to be quiet, and she's silencing her own daughter with the apple. And her transformation as the hag is kind of like this final refusal to conform into this beauty system, because if she cannot be adored, she will be feared, and a lot of women go through that. The poet Anne Sexton saw this ending of the hag as something very clear. I'm gonna get the book and I'm gonna read this to you, because she talks a lot about this inheritance that I mentioned in the beginning, this never-ending wound that becomes really an heirloom that to be carried from the queen to Snow White, because then Snow White will become the queen in some aspects. So here's what she says. Let me get the book. So here's the book, Transformations by Anne Sexton. If you're a fan of fairy tales, I recommend this book so much. It's beautifully written, as everything that she wrote. And this is the end of the poem about Snow White. So the wicked queen was invited to the wedding feast. And when she arrived, there were red-hot iron shoes, in the manner of red-hot roller skates, clamped upon her feet. First your toes will smoke, and then your heels will turn black, and you will fry upward like a frog. She was told. And so she danced until she was dead, a subterranean figure, her tongue flicking in and out like a gas jet. Meanwhile, Snow White held court, rolling her china blue doll eyes open and shut, and sometimes referring to her mirror, as women do. It's a chilling inheritance. It's this dance between mother and daughter, beauty and punishment. The tale has a lot about punishment. One is burning and the other is kind of freezing in a coma inside the glass. And the mirror remains, and it's reflecting both of them. Yes, let's talk about her sleep. So Snow White's sleep inside the glass coffin, which is like a shimmering, suspended moment. She's both on the threshold to puberty and a type of rebirth. She's dead, but not really dead. It's a liminal space where childhood dissolves and womanhood begins. It is a moment of awakening that is not romantic. There's no kiss, but it's very vocal. She coughs up the fruit, and finds her own voice again. It's not really about submission, of being laid down and then kissed, but it's the return of speech, of consciousness. I'll go into myth a little bit. This is getting very long, but let's go into myth. There's another mirror and another queen that's staring back. We have Hera, the queen of the gods, the Greek gods, looking at her daughter Hebe, the goddess of youth, and feeling the sting of replacement. In Greek mythology, Hera's jealousy and possessiveness are legendary. She not only rages at Zeus's lovers, her husband Zeus, but she sees her power eroding. She sees her as being replaced in youth and attention. So her story in myth mirrors the queen's in Snow White. It's a woman defined by authority and beauty, watching both of those things slipping away. Hera's fury at Hebe, her daughter, who embodies the perpetual youth, and she serves nectar to the gods. So her rage against her speaks very high volumes to this terror that women may feel of being obsolete, of being dethroned, not just by your own offspring, but by younger women who are coming into the world. It's not just the jealousy, it's the pain of transition. She is the goddess of marriage, and she is facing this inevitable turning of the wheel of time, watching her daughter or younger women inheriting the vitality that once was hers. So each story is the same dance. One generation is fading, another is rising. Both have love and jealousy and inevitability. So to use Jungian terms, there's integration to be had here. There's the union of innocence and awareness, and of life and death, of light and shadow. As the daughter awakens, the mother must fall, but they are bound. One is death and the other is life, and both are necessary for the story to turn the wheel. Do we inherit our mother's reflections? I think so, whether we want it or not. Sometimes we can polish them. Sometimes we can shatter them. But always we carry them somehow. Snow White and her stepmother are not enemies. They are the same river at different bends. Maiden, mother, crone, each one inevitable. Each one is essential. So to end this right now, I would wish for you and bless you that you may recognize the queen and the girl within you, both aching to be seen by themselves. May you look into the mirror and find not rivalry, but renewal. May your mirror show you not fairness, but the full beauty of who you truly are. And may you remember that no glass, no gaze can measure your light. We are not done with the evil queen. There's much more to talk about. Next time, we follow the queen through the mirror itself into film, art, and culture. She does not vanish in smoke. She does not fall off the cliff. She does not dance until she burns. She steps onto our screens and she learns how to pose. And she learns how to plot. And we can't get enough of her. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Goddess Witch Woman. Come join me on Substack for even more in-depth conversations and essays about the witch and fairy tales. It's mariannaportela.substack.com, and I'll see you soon with more of the Evil Queen. Yes!
I'm Marianna Portela, and you've listened to Goddess Witch Woman, a Healing Stories podcast.